It's Monday on Toronto Sports Rush. I'm Kyle. That's Pierre McGuire. That means it's McGuire Monday. Pierre, I want to open today's show just talking about Toronto sports in general because there's a very interesting parallel right now between this Toronto Maple Leafs team's offseason and the Toronto Blue Jays offseason that they just had. And we talked about Gord Stellick's comments last week on the show about how he's just tempering expectations of these offseason moves. A Toronto Blue Jays team that was just moments away from defeating the mighty Dodgers in the World Series, and they just fell short, made some pretty considerable offseason moves, and they haven't worked out for them, even though the people they acquired in the offseason have worked out tremendously. The existing core group did not hold up their end of the bargain. In tempering expectations, we've spoken at length about, we have to see this team on the ice. And what are the chances that such significant offseason moves could just simply not result in the positive step forward this Maple Leafs team is hoping for?
Well, I don't think it's going to happen with the Toronto Maple Leafs because there's been such a huge amount of malfunction at the junction. Whether it's first round eliminations, heartbreaking game 7 losses, not making the playoffs last year, guys having double-digit minuses on their record last year. Auston Matthews, getting severely injured after having basically an underachieving season. Matthew Nyes not being nearly as good enough as he needs to be. You can go down the line with Toronto last year. I don't think you're going to see that from this group. I think you're going to have a lot of motivated people. Plus, you've made a coaching change, so you've got a captive audience with a new message. I think the Maple Leafs are going to be a little bit better than what a lot of the pundits are saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I agree. I mean, the comparison to some degree is silly because the Maple Leafs were far from moments away from winning the Stanley Cup the previous season, but they have made such a significant number of changes. It's going to be interesting to see how this team gels. And moving on, there's another change to the functioning group behind the scenes. They hire Sidney Crosby's trainer, Andy O'Brien.
Yeah.
And I think to a lot of people, that seems like somewhat insignificant, but I doubt it actually is. What is the significance of a hire like this, Pierre?
Very significant. Number one, because he's coming in new. Number two, because he's familiar with the people that hired him. Number three, they're all going to be singing from the same songbook. But this is most important. Andy O'Brien is a high achiever. Not to say the people that were in Toronto before him were not. They all are when they get to that level. It's just that now the slate is clean for everybody. There's no holdover. There's no remembering what you did or didn't do. Andy comes in with a clean slate, and so do the players when it comes to working with Andy. Andy's a very professional person. I've watched him work for a lot of years in the NHL. His record of achievement with Sidney is phenomenal. So I don't see this being bad at all. I think it's actually a very formidable hire.
Yeah, it's an interesting piece to add because obviously a huge part of Sidney Crosby's success over the years has been the way he's cared for himself, has been the way that he's worked on his body and his conditioning. He's just always been at the top of the league, and probably to many degrees, even though he's in an advanced NHL age, still remains there to this day, Pierre.
And you know what? Andy O'Brien's a big part of that, but I'm not going to take anything away from Sidney Crosby's physical and mental toughness. People forget, if you go back until, probably around 2010 to 2012, Sid was battling a lot of injury situations, Kyle, and eventually he found his way through it. Andy O'Brien was part of that. But Sidney's always been one of the most fit guys in the National Hockey League. And it takes me to a story when Nathan McKinnon was drafted first overall. Sid had already been in the league for a while, and they were both represented by Pat Brisson at the time and still are, who has a formidable home out in California. And they were actually running sand dunes the day after the draft. Now, most guys, when they're drafted first overall, they're not feeling great the day after the draft. In this case, it was Crosby and McKinnon pushing one another to be great. So that's the kind of mindset Andy O'Brien brings to the party. He's seen it happen with Sid. He's seen it happen with Nathan. Andy's worked with a lot of good players. I think it's just part of what you have to do to be a successful organization today. Hire real good strength and conditioning people.
Yeah, and strength and conditioning is obviously it's such a different part of the game in today's hockey world than previous hockey games. And I of course, even in the broadcast booth and on YouTube and whatnot here, Pierre, because I received a text from you this morning as I was wiping the sleep out of the corner of my eyes, saying you had just finished at the gym and were very excited about this morning show. I'm like, oh yeah, me too, man, which was a lie.
So well, true. It's true though.
Hey, listen. That's why you bring the energy, Pierre. We know.
You know what's really cool? I had the amazing honor of working with some amazing hockey players. And I consider anybody that gets a paycheck in hockey to be an amazing hockey player, whether it be a fourth line guy or first line guy. You're getting paid to play a sport, you're pretty good at something. And I'll never forget when Jaromir Jagr was 18 years old and how hard he worked. And I'll never forget Kevin Stevens, who was a little bit older, and how hard he worked. I'll never forget Mark Grecky and how hard he worked. I will never forget sitting in a dressing room in Pittsburgh and watching an equipment manager have to tie Mario Lemieux's skates because his back was so injured. But yet when you put him in a game, you knew he could play between 24 and 28 minutes because all the other stuff was taken care of because of his cardiovascular system, and he was just a physical freak of nature. My point is, if you're not mentally and physically prepared to push to the next level, chances are you're not going to last that long. You're not going to be that good. Andy O'Brien makes all these guys better. He makes all these guys better.
Pierre, it's a point we're sticking with because how these guys in today's game discipline themselves off the ice, it directly translates on the ice. And it goes even further than that. We just saw perhaps the fittest coach in NFL history hoist the Stanley Cup with ease, might I add. He clean and jerked it at least 12 times. They were celebrating on the ice. But like these things do matter to today's game so much more than they have in the past because there is such a mental aspect to hockey being played at such an elite level now. And of course, that off-ice conditioning leads directly to that. Now, I got to ask you this, and this is obviously purely speculative. Is there any chance a move like this could lead to a future where we see Sidney Crosby in the blue and white, or is he a Penguin for life?
I would be surprised if he weren't a Penguin for life.
Same.
You know, there was a lot of scuttlebutt last year, and Pat Brisson drove that, by the way, where he was saying, hey, you know, maybe Sidney Crosby reevaluates midway through the year and he decides to move, and we asked management. Well, that didn't come to fruition. Sidney was tremendous last year. He led the team to the playoffs. I think they underachieved in the playoffs. I think part of that was fatigue. Part of that was some guys that were a little bit younger. They weren't ready for that. But we'll see how it plays out this year. I think the Penguins are actually going to be, again, a little bit like Toronto, a tough team to play against. Just that Washington's made so many significant improvements. I don't know how easy it will be for Pittsburgh to make it. I think Carolina and Washington, barring injuries, will be two of the three for sure teams out of the Metropolitan Division. But again, I'm going to just say this. I think 5 teams are going to make it from the Metro. I think 3 teams are going to make it from, 5 teams are going to make it from the Atlantic, and 3 teams are going to make it from the Metro.
That seems about right, Pierre. The Atlantic remains probably the toughest division in all of the NHL. I want to talk about the parallels between number 1 picks Gavin McKenna and number 1 pick Auston Matthews, because the comments in the media recently by McKenna, it demonstrates that there is in fact a relationship building between these two in the offseason. And it's impossible to overstate the importance of something like this because they have both being number 1 picks. It's a different game. It's a different mental battle. It's a different mental struggle. Having Auston Matthews available to him, as he's made clear he has been this offseason, is going to be a huge part of the development of Gavin McKenna.
One of the reasons why I love doing this show is because you make so many good points, and that's such a good point, Kyle. Number 1, the Auston Matthews factor. He's been through it. McKenna's going to skate in his skates and learn exactly what Auston went through, pro and con. There's one other addition that they made, Matt Sundin, first overall pick. Guy that a lot of people thought early in his career underachieved, and then all of a sudden gets to Toronto and starts to overachieve in a lot of people's eyes. I think between Auston and between Matt, you got a lot of people that can help Gavin McKenna get through the early part of the year. I think for the first 40 games, McKenna's going to be outstanding. I really do. What Toronto, and they know this too. Matthews knows this. Sundin knows this. Jimmy Hiller, the coach, knows this. Daniel Alfredsson's going to know this from when he broke into the league in 95, 96, or 94, 95, excuse me. What happens is you get to game 40, you're not used to it. You're not used to time zone travel. You're not used to the size of the guys. You're not used to the intensity, dealing with the media, and it's an 84-game schedule. Those guys are going to help McKenna through this. Matthews is important. Sundin is important. Alfredsson's really important when it comes to helping Gavin McKenna get through all this stuff.
Yeah, and I can't help but go back to the point, too. It's very different than when, say, a Connor Bedard came into the league because the pressure is just not on McKenna the same way. He is not the number 1, 2, or 3 scoring option on this team and won't be for some time. And with that comes a lot of room to develop all aspects of his game to simply progress through all of the needed areas instead of like this constant pressure to put the puck in the back of the net.
You're right. And the biggest thing I see for him is He'll probably be on the first power play. And Darren Rash is going to help that first power play. Willie Nylander is going to help that first power play. Austin's going to help that first power play. I think Gavin McKenna is really going to help that first power play. And part of why I say that, more time and space in the power play. So if they decide to pressure point Matthews, his peripheral vision's so good, he can move the puck to McKenna. If they decide to pressure point McKenna, his peripheral vision is so good, it's either going to leave Darren Radish wide open up high, or it's going to leave Willie Nylander back door wide open. Like these guys have such good peripheral vision. That's something people aren't talking enough about between Matthews, Nylander, and McKenna in particular, and Tavares, by the way. Johnny T's got amazing peripheral vision. That's a big part of power play. And once you become unpredictable because of that peripheral vision to the defense, you make it really hard. That team was 15th in the league in the power play last year, talking about Toronto. I'll be shocked. I'll be shocked if they're not in the top 10, and I'll be really surprised and disappointed if they're not in the top 7 in the league.
I agree with you, Pierre. And there's some interesting points to make about the guys that you just mentioned, specifically Matthews, Nylander, Tavares. Matthews is close, but none of them are like a pure goal scorer the way like a Brett Hull was. They all have this ability to facilitate as well. And for McKenna to potentially be on PP1 and learn from that, that's going to accelerate his growth curve at such a rapid level to see these playmakers moving around them, how they move, how they create space, how they operate in open space. It's really, really going to, as far as I'm concerned, accelerate his learning curve. And he's probably best being thrown into that fire.
One of the biggest things about point getters, and Gavin McKenna is a point getter, he's not out there to check and shut people down. He's there to get points. One of the biggest things with point getters is the more points they get, the better they are because of what you just talked about, Kyle, confidence. He's going to have a ton of confidence, I believe, because I do think the power play is going to be really good. And I do think those are easier minutes for a younger player than having to grind 5-on-5 in matchup situations all the time. He's going to get some of that grinding stuff. But I think because of the way the lines are probably going to be drawn up, and I would be shocked if we didn't see McKenna, Matthews, and Nylander to start the year. Maybe Nyes moves up there, but I would be surprised if we didn't see that threesome to start. They're going to draw a lot of penalties too because they're going to own the puck. Austin's a great faceoff guy. McKenna's a great puck protection guy. Nylander's an amazing puck protection guy. So they're going to draw penalties from the opposition. Those are easier minutes to play than the grinding 5-on-5 matchup minutes. So I know a lot of people are kind of down on the Leafs right now. I am not. I'm actually more bullish. So we'll see who's right, but I think they're going to do well.
I'm with you, Pierre, and I want to stick with that point that you just made because that's where I was actually going next. So this team, I'm with 100% with you in that if they don't have a top 10 power play, to some degree, that would be a failure with the group they've now assembled. They have a real captain at the point. They have every piece they need to do this. Beyond that, they have brought in a coach who is a power play specialist, and he focuses on that as well. What are the things this team is going to do? How is this team going to play to draw those penalties to give them as many power play advantages, which they will need to succeed as possible?
Well, first of all, puck possession matters a lot. So face-off play matters a lot. Auston is real good on face-offs. Johnny Tavares is real good on face-offs. Let's just say Colton Sisson's playing in the, for the sake of argument, in 3-hole. We'll just say that. And if not him, then maybe Nick Paul. They're all good on faceoffs. They're all, every single one. Teddy Bluger's really good on faceoffs too. So they've got enough in the faceoff department. That's part of puck possession. I think they're going to enhance their cycle game. It's not just going to be 3 guys. I think you're going to see the defense jumping into the cycle as well. And I think the biggest thing is just dominate. It's going to probably be an organizational mantra. I watched Jimmy Hiller coach in Detroit when he was working with real good players. Really important to get the puck below the hash marks and work it from the hash mark to the icing line. And if Toronto does that, and I think they will, that'll be huge. And I talked about Daniel before Alfredson. I know Leaf fans don't like him because he's an Ottawa Senator guy. By the end of this year, I think you'll be really happy having Daniel Alfredson on your staff. I really do.
I agree with you, Pierre. I think there's a level of leadership that's forming with this team that's a mix of aggressive management style, but former players that you just can't replicate the experience of Sundins and Alfredson, even with the shrewdest of management techniques. Okay, let's close here because we talked about the power play. Team that gets a lot of power plays and draws penalties the way they do, it means they're going to take some penalties too. We know about the movements they've made in net. How is this team going to shape up on the PK?
I think it'll be good. McCabe is really good on the penalty kill. Tanev, if he stays healthy, is really good on the penalty kill. Radish is actually a formidable penalty kill player. Adding Colton Sissons and Teddy Bluger, those are real good penalty killing players. Nicky Paul used to be a very good penalty killer. I think he might have lost a half a gear, so I'm not sure the scheme they're going to use, but Nicky should be able to help on the penalty kill. I think by and large, they're going to be very good on the penalty kill. I don't know if they'll be as good as they were last year. But one of the biggest things about penalty kill is goaltending, and Bobrovsky's pretty darn good. He's pretty darn good in goal. So I think they've enhanced their ability to kill penalties. I just don't know if they'll be statistically as good as they were last year.
Well, it remains to be seen. Again, all of this is speculation, Pierre, but it has been a fun summer. We are now into August, and they get closer to skating together as a group for the first time, just over a month away now, I imagine. So it's an exciting time in Leafland because there just is nothing left to complain about here. They've made as many changes as a team could possibly hope to make in the offseason. If they're going to move on from recent failures, I don't think the fan base could ask for much more.
No, and I still think they're going to be proactive. I mean, if they get an opportunity, we haven't talked about Morgan Riley yet, but if they have the ability to make a smart move on Morgan Riley and that makes the team better, then so be it. But I do think they're going to be proactive as the season goes along. They're far from being a finished product. I think everybody knows that. That's one of the things I admire about what Keith has done, Keith Pelly. Rather than just say, okay, we did this, we did this, and we did this, they went out and did more. You know, they've added more scouts. They've added more people in their analytics department. They've added more people on the coaches. Like, they've made some really shrewd acquisitions. And you know what makes me laugh, Kyle? I got to tell you this. Most people have no idea who these scouts are, because that's not where they live. That's not what they do. That's not their job to know what these scouts do. But if you've been in the business for a while, you know, well, this guy judges talent really well. This guy judges character really well. This guy judges speed really well. Like, every scout's good at really a couple things. They're not great at everything. They're good at a couple. I think the Leafs have added some really good people to their front office. I really do.
I agree with you, Pierre, and I can't wait to see the on-ice product this fall. We're getting closer every day, even though the Blue Jays are dominating the headlines with their own roster changes, which will take up the rest of my day, of course. But once again, thank you so much for joining us here and offering your insight. We look forward to more off-season moves and your analysis, Pierre.
Thanks a lot, Kyle. I appreciate it. Have a good week, everybody.